All right, let's get this show on the road, JB. I'll continue to let folks in as we go here.
Here we go, guys. 11 o'clock Mountain, 1 o'clock Eastern. Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. Happy May to all of you. Thanks for joining us today. I'm JB.
And I'm JC.
There you go. We had to practice that this morning. And we are your FFL consultants. For anybody new, we will have this slide up at the end, of course, for our contact information. Anybody else, you've got our number. So what are we going to go over today? Hey, this is going to be packed full of information, especially early on. We're going to give you some updates. That's going to include the engaged in the business as a gun dealer ruling. So you got to pay special close attention to that, as your customers will have a lot of questions. And we'll move over to the compliance corner. And we've got a fun little exercise with you today. We'll try out. We'll see how that goes, but we're excited about that. We're going to play true or false and see if you've been tracking all along with us, or if you need to brush up on your FFL compliance education. And then we'll end with our rapid fire Ask Us Anything session, which is, for those of you who are new, the most exciting part of the conversation, is you get to ask your questions and we give you the real answer fast. So let's jump right into this. So we promised you last month that we would read 463 pages of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act new ruling on engaged in the business as a firearms dealer without a license. Yeah, and I won't lie to you, we got through most of it, but not all of it. Very difficult to read and interpret, as there is a tremendous amount of ambiguous text. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. I want to make some clarifications up front. This does not affect FFLs. That doesn't affect you as you conduct business as we know it today under with a license in 01, 02, 05, 07, 06, license 10, all fine, 02s. Everybody's good. Who it does affect is your customer. And that's where you're going to start getting questions very quickly as this rolls out and becomes known across the 2A community. Essentially, this new ruling eliminates the for-profit transfers that occur without a background check at gun shows or in the neighborhood, etc., or online. There's a limit transfers amongst non-licensees, and you'll see why in a few minutes here, eliminating the gun show loophole. But hey, as an industry, we're actually feeling pretty good about it. But I think we have to see how this thing rolls out over the next few months and how it goes and how it actually impacts all of us. So to begin, the term or the engaged in the business term does not affect auctioneers. We had a lot of questions come in last week leading up to this saying, hey, does this affect me and how does it affect me? Long and short, it does not affect auctioneers as long as the auctioneer does not purchase the firearms, take possession of the firearms for sale on consignment, or handle those transfers directly. That auctioneer can still conduct the sales process with an FFL present or an FFL in custody of the firearms, but the auctioneer cannot take control of those firearms without a license.
And JB, one thing I want to touch on this specifically with the auctioneers, if you're an auctioneer on the call today, if you're conducting regular auctions of firearms, like you're advertising and marketing like once a month, once a quarter, whatever the case may be, then you may want to proceed with some caution, because now you're getting into that realm of potentially needing to be licensed. So just keep that in mind.
And back to this presentation we have here today for you is not 100% conclusive. Again, this is our interpretation of the many hundreds of pages we tried to get through to iron out some of the details for you. All right. So the good news is, as of last night at about 10:30 p.m. Mountain Time, whatever time that is where you are, there was a temporary restraining order injunction imposed by a Texas court. Thankfully, because of lawsuits, which we usually don't see before the ruling actually takes effect. But several organizations have already filed suits and claims with the different courts to try to figure out if this is even permissible, the way it's rolled out with the ambiguous wording and the text, the way it is, again, not approved by Congress, but approved through the ATF process, whatever that process was. We will find out in the future months. But just like the arm brace ruling, the bump stock ruling, and others, the Markham ruling, this is another ruling imposed by the Biden administration saying you can't do something you were doing yesterday. But here's the go date is today. It's May 20th. So this is effective today unless otherwise stipulated. So if you're in Texas and your name is Jeffrey Tormey, or the gun owners, you're a member of the Gun Owners of America, the Gun Owners Foundation, or the Tennessee Firearms Association, or Virginia Citizens Defense League, you are not subject to this ruling until at least June 2nd or until otherwise stipulated. And it also, those exemptions, even if you do belong to those associations, cannot apply to plaintiffs in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Utah. Just need to put that up front for you. So again, already confusing. It's good for some and not for others. But engaged in the business ruling 2022 R-17F basically refers to a lot. Most of this is referring to personal collection and what you can and cannot do as a gun owner with your personal collection. And before we dig into all of the do's and don'ts, we have to explain what some of these definitions are. A personal collection shall not include any firearm purchased for the purpose of resale with the predominant intent to earn a profit. Golly, golly, good molly. So if you're buying a gun today, thinking you're going to sell later, make some money, that's a no-no. And then while firearms are accumulated primarily for personal protection, are also not included in personal collection. So self-defense firearms, personal protection firearms, which if I think about it, is almost all semi-automatics. If you think about it, even some shotguns and shockwaves, etc. Personal protection firearms are not included in personal collections. Keep that in mind as we move through this. Additionally, the rule does not prevent unlicensed persons from making isolated sales of firearms that were purchased for self-protection. Okay, wait a minute. They just told us that the rule doesn't apply to self-defense firearms or personal protection firearms, but later on in the text, it tells us the rule does not pertain to isolated sales of self-defense firearms. Now, already, as we just start to even explain and understand the definitions, we find ambiguity, meaning contradiction, in what this ruling is telling us we can and cannot do as firearm owners. Remember, this doesn't affect FFLs right now. It affects the firearm owner. But it goes on to explain that engaged in the business, the term, which we refer to, the term is the engaged in the business, is defined as when a person, meaning a non-licensee, devotes time, attention, and labor to dealing in firearms as a regular course of trade or business to predominantly earn a profit through the repetitive purchase and resale of firearms. That seems pretty non-detailed. How many firearms? How often? What does predominantly mean? How much time? How much attention? How much labor? What's repetitive mean? And we kind of know what resale means buy a gun and sell it. So all of this is very, again, non-detailed, but it's out there and it's effective today. And again, the average firearms owner out there has no idea this even is in existence. And then the whole ruling, all those 463 pages, focuses more on intent, the intent of the firearms owner more than anything else. Says that a firearms owner intend to buy it and sell it later. Did they intend to accumulate a collection for the purpose of making a profit later? Did they intend to sell more than 2 guns this month to make profit without being a licensee? This word intent is in the text over 90 times. And then second to intent would be profit. They're not focused so much on profit. Profit is a secondary factor to intent, which is a primary factor as to whether or not a firearms owner is or will be committing a crime, according to the ruling. Throughout the text, to be even more confusing, they talk about collectors of firearms. Well, in the FFL industry, we understand a collector to be a Type 3 licensee, collector of curio and relics. Well, throughout this 460 pages, it refers to collectors as anyone accumulating firearms without a license. So just be aware of that. Collectors come in all shapes and sizes, as we know. So your collectors who are, again, collecting self-defense and protection guns or semi-automatic pistols or one of every type of Glock, yeah, we're not sure if selling those Glocks later will be a crime or not. Like buying revolvers, depends what type of revolver. Are they classic, new revolvers, Winchesters? Are they new Winchesters? I mean, all of that is purely undefined in this text. Okay. But it does say a collector whose motive is not to predominantly earn a profit, meaning maybe they won't buy their guns or collect their guns to make a profit later. They may make incidental or occasional profit in the course of enhancing a personal collection, which would not be engaged in a business. And we tried to figure out what that little paragraph means and tried to find supporting detail as to timing and quantity, and it's all non-existent. The term occasional is basically undefined throughout the ruling. Then we move into, then there's no statutory requirement that firearms actually be sold to actually commit the crime. So if you are simply intending, remember I talked about that, you have intent to sell a firearm, you put an ad on Facebook, or to JC's earlier conversation, you're marketing as an auctioneer who is going to be selling firearms during an estate sale, etc. How is this going to be interpreted as intent versus non-intentional? And you don't even have to make money to be found, I guess, guilty is the only word, of violating this ruling, as long as you showed intent to do so. So if you're advertising firearms and you're going to be at a gun show and you don't have a license, you can fall subject to scrutiny. So how do you commit the crime? How do you violate this rule? Well, it's anyone who's selling or offering for resale firearms without a license, and they are doing it with intent to earn a profit, or if they're selling non-collector firearms. Again, we define those, or it is defined in the text as self-protection, self-defense type firearms, quote unquote. So that is, and I believe that's why some of these lawsuits have already been filed, to ask for clarification and definition behind what is and is not illegal. But clearly the repetitive selling offers for firearms sales within 30 days of purchasing a gun. If a non-licensee purchases a gun from you and sells it within 30 days, that's clarified in this ruling that will be illegal. And therefore, we expect that you will have a tremendous increase in selective traces, where those ATF investigators call you and ask for a specific trace on a person who may have purchased a firearm in your location over the last 30, 60, 90 days. We also know that within 1 year after the person purchased the firearm, if they sell that firearm like new in its original packaging, which is with its manuals and the lock and the tools and whatever else might come along in the box, that too can be construed or interpreted as in the purchase, engaged in the business without a license. So how will they tell? Well, they may be coming to your place of business and tracing these guns again based on disposition dates. So this is a headache, to say the least. So engaged in a business, for dealers, this is where it does affect you. So you will be able to, we'll tell a little more about this in a minute, but you will be able to transfer your firearms if you go out of business after 1 year of waiting. You'll have to, as the law stipulates today in Chapter 14 U.S. Code, Title 18, you are allowed today as a firearms dealer surrendering a license to hold your firearms in your quote unquote personal collection and go to retail or sell those after 1 year of waiting. That prior to today did not classify anything as conducting or engaging in a business without a license as we knew it. But now we again have that question: what happens if I'm transferring Glocks and SIGs and self-defense weapons and shockwaves? What happens if those firearms get moved into my personal collection after I surrender my license, go out of business, retire, get revoked. What can I do and not do with those firearms that are sitting in my storage unit for a year? Can I transfer those? So that's still a very big question. So we're going to try to summarize what's okay. Okay. So as these 400 or so pages stipulate, it's okay if the person transfers firearms only as a bona fide gift. That has not changed. Giving a gift is not construed as something intentional or engaging in a business without a license, and there are no gains or benefits or monies received. That's a bona fide gift. That's still okay. If a firearms owner occasionally sells firearms only to obtain more valuable, desirable, or useful firearms for the personal collection, meaning to upgrade the collection, they want to sell a Taurus and purchase a SIG. Okay, they're saying that's okay. But again, who's going to define occasional, and how do we keep track of it? And how many times can I do that? Then somebody can occasionally sell to a licensee or to a family member for lawful purposes. Sure, you can bring in used guns and purchase used guns from customers, but occasionally, again, is there a definition behind that? How many guns can someone sell me as an FFL? How many can I buy from you? Very ambiguous. We don't know, but it takes effect today. Selling or liquidating without restocking, that's the big one. If someone sells or liquidates their entire collection to a gun dealer, that's okay. Yeah, I think that's the ulterior motive here. Personal collections can all be sold without any scrutiny to an FFL. A very strange part of the text. How about to liquidate firearms that are inherited or pursuant to a court order? Yeah, no problem. You inherit a bunch of guns from Uncle Charlie, or your father, someone's dad passed away, and you have a trunk full of guns or a safe full of guns. Sure, go ahead and liquidate them to the FFL. No problem there. And pursuant to a court order, could be something connected to red flag laws, or maybe someone commits a felony and they no longer can be in possession of firearms. Sure, take them to the gun dealer. Let the gun dealer buy them.
FFL guard, just whatever's going into effect.
And then to assist in liquidating firearms as an auctioneer, we talked about that as on one of the first screens. Yeah, as long as you're not taking possession of the firearm, you're okay. All right. In summary, the engaged in the business term does not affect licensees' daily activities today. Okay, it does affect you after you surrender a license. There's no minimum transfer quantity to be engaged in the business. Again, none stipulated. Is a one, do I try to sell one gun on GunBroker or Facebook to make some money? Or do I have to sell more than one? It's undefined. Elements of the violation are these three critical criteria. Intent, remember that's the first primary criteria in the ruling, is intent to do so without a license. Repetitiveness, how many times are you doing this? And then are you have any type of gain or profit? Those are the three factors that the ATF is going to use in determining whether or not someone is selling firearms without a license, engaged in the business. Remember, self-defense firearms are not included in that personal collection. So that's a big question mark for everyone. Occasional sales to liquidate inherited or personal firearms without restocking is okay. Occasional consignments are okay, but undefined. FFLs will have to liquidate the pre-voluntary surrender. If you are deciding to get out of the business, retire, sell your business, etc., pre-voluntary, you have 30 days from the time you decide not to do that, or from the time you actually surrender your license, to actually transfer those firearms still in your collection to another FFL or to your personal collection. But again, you have to hold those for 1 year. Same for the involuntary surrender in the case of a revocation. Okay, hold those guns for 1 year, and again, we don't know what to do with those self-protection, self-defense firearms. We do see predict a huge increase in private party transfers as this 2A community realizes, wait a minute, everybody's getting in trouble over this. What do I do? How can I do this? We do expect a huge inflow of private party transfers across the country. And even in those states where private party transfers are not required today for non-licensee transfers. They're going to come to you just because they want to make sure that you don't get in trouble and don't commit a crime and expect you to have all the answers. And then the ATF's predicting a huge increase in license applications as a result, which makes sense, but we're just not sure about that yet. We'll watch these last couple as months proceed. So how do you avoid becoming a conspirator? We don't want you as FFLs to be party to a crime, obviously, because the ATF will be investigating you just as much as they investigate the gun owner. So just qualify every transfer. What does qualify means? Just like preventing a straw purchase, make sure you know what the genuine interest of every firearm purchaser is, the genuine interest in that firearm, and the genuine intent. What are they going to do with that gun afterwards? We've been talking about this for years as part of the straw purchase prevention program. Now we're talking about it as how to avoid becoming how to avoid conspiracy to commit a crime as it relates to this new ruling. So train your employees, train your staff. If you don't have a good story as to what that person's going to do with that firearm and why they're buying a firearm and how long they're going to keep it, I mean, you've got to come up with those 10 new questions to get that story to make sure if ever questioned by the ATF, because that person went and decided to sell some guns, you sold them, that you don't become a party to a crime. So that could be devastating for all of us. JC, before I move on to legislation, any other comments?
Yeah, you know, and here's the thing, and I've seen a couple comments come up about this is, yeah, essentially, as it relates to the ruling, you are going to have to start paying attention. Number one, and we've actually got a couple FFLs that are in trouble because they've been transferring a lot of firearms to individuals and not really paying attention to it with the belief that, hey, he passed a background check, I'm selling him a gun. What you don't realize is a lot of times, and we hear this a lot from our gun show FFLs that are clients of ours, and they get irritated because there's some guy, with a table right across from him that's unlicensed, that's undercutting him on the sale of firearms and such, and he hasn't bothered to get licensed. He doesn't do background checks, et cetera, et cetera. You really got to look at this from a businessman's perspective, business person's perspective. I mean, are you literally channeling firearms to an individual that's your competition? And our role as FFLs is to positively influence public safety. So, keep that type of stuff in mind when you're looking at this ruling. You could potentially just be, providing firearms to an individual that's basically your competition, undercutting you, and could be negatively impacting public safety. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and there's some nuances to this law and such. I think it just really, the premise of this thing is to cut down on the illegal sale of firearms to prohibited persons and such. So look at it that way. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does it impact you? The only way it impacts you is to make sure that if you're selling, quantities of firearms to an individual, you know what their intention is, and you're avoiding putting guns in the hands of potentially your competition. So,
Yep. Yep. More to follow. Again, as we get more detail on this and see how these lawsuits, progress, we'll certainly keep you guys updated. All right. Hey, legislating, and throw those questions in the chat box if you have them, and we'll get to more at the end. Hey, legislation, good news and bad news for Colorado. Assault weapon ban was shot down last week. Unfortunately, they approved the state licensing for FFLs in Colorado, which means we're Colorado natives here. We will, like Illinois, California, and other states, we'll have to jump through hoops to make sure our premises meet the licensing requirements, pay a fee, subject ourselves to inspection, etc. Unfortunately, that has been approved and it takes effect a year from July. So we get some time to read through this, vet through it, and prepare for it. So we'll have more for you, Colorado FFLs, as we get the details. Down in New Mexico, this was I want to thank Matt. Matt, thanks for bringing this to our attention last month. Had no idea this was coming. Mandatory 7 calendar day hold effective last week. So New Mexico residents coming to your place of business need to have their firearms held no matter what, proceed, delay, for at least 7 days before releasing. Others, follow. It's probably I think that's the longest hold we have out there for a mandatory hold to prevent active shooters, et cetera, and allow for proper background checks to commence. So 7 days, and if you're delayed, if you get a delay on that person, it's 20 days. 20 days if delayed before you release that firearm, and consider your Brady date is 20 days for New Mexico residents.
Yeah.
Okay, LEOs, CCWs, and family members exempt.
And keep in mind, if you're selling to a New Mexico resident, you are required to maintain that delay. So,
yep. Another one that popped up on us, I forget who brought this to our attention, but we were challenged with the ruling up in Rhode Island to ship ammo, and we did the research and dug in, and sure enough, our client and caller was correct. You cannot ship ammo directly to a Rhode Island resident. It has to go through an FFL, very similar to some other state requirements, other states that do the same out there. So don't ship ammo to anyone directly in Rhode Island. Okay, and we'll be adding those to the restrictive states guide. JC, you're up on the export ban.
yeah. So anybody exporters, you just need to be aware of the fact that the Commerce Department is putting together this export ban to 36 countries. Right now, there's been an export ban or restriction in place for quite some time, for I think it's the last 3 months now, restricting any export of non-military firearms. So what the government's worried about is these guns, non-military firearms, getting in the hands of criminals and being used in military activities and such, or other criminal activities. So we're working through this right now. The 36 countries, we have a couple manufacturers that do export firearms, personal type firearms out of the country to various end users. So we're working through this right now, but if you're an exporter, reach out to us. We can talk you through some of this stuff. It's a little bit ridiculous. When everything shifted over from the State Department to the Commerce Department and was removed from the USML and moved over to the CCL, things changed a little bit. But now the government's, as with everything with firearms, the government is putting the screws to it and trying to prohibit things from happening under the auspices of guns are ending up in the hands of criminals and military entities around the world. So,
yeah, I think the one plus that might come out of this is a surplus of those types of firearms and manufactured stockrooms, right?
Yep. Obviously 36 countries, that's a lot of countries, depending on the manufacturer and how much stuff they used to ship to those countries. There could be a glut in the market.
Yeah. Maybe some good buying opportunities. We'll see.
Maybe. Maybe.
All right. Audits for April, ATF audits, 912 audits, highest number yet so far. They are out and about. And we have a lot of inspections starting on a Friday, which is unusual. So be aware of that. Don't be surprised if they walk in at the end of the week and say, oh, yeah, we're here to start this, and we're bringing the whole team in on Monday. So let's see, 14 warnings issued and 13 revocations. Again, those are from prior month audit, probably back in the fall or early this year, concluding now. 1.4% were revoked according to those numbers, but 2.3% overall year to date. So again, almost 2.5 FFLs out of every 100 are losing a license. And we are still seeing those IOIs traveling across territory. So do not expect your friendly IOI to be coming to do your next inspection. Make sure you are ready. All right, we're going to jump into compliance corner. First thing we want to do is remind everybody, because we are, JC and I are out there. JC's doing, for the most part, hearings, ATF revocation hearings. He's also doing inspections. When he's not doing a hearing, I'm doing inspections with our premium retail members and others. And we are still seeing a lot of issues with the NICS numbers, either not documented correctly or missing a digit or transposed or just inaccurate. So we want to make sure you guys absolutely are doing this process. We plead with you. If there's one free piece of advice that you want to take from us, is run this report at least monthly, if not daily and weekly. But it's the NICS NTN query history. If you are on eNICS, and most of you should be by now, we hope you all are. Even if you're calling in your your background checks, make sure you have access to your eNix account where all the information is stored.
I will
But
tell you something to that, JB. I just want to interject real quickly. We had an FFL that we were on site doing an inspection, and they still called in their background checks, and they did not have an Enix account. And sure enough, one of the 4473s I reviewed was missing a digit, was missing part of their NTN. And luckily, it was within 88 days we got them signed up for Enix. We found that transaction and were able to get that form corrected. So that would have been revocable. So we saved them on a revocation issue right there and then. So
Yeah.
sign up
Yeah.
for that Enix. Whether you want to use Enix or not, sign up for it.
yeah,
Have access.
this process is priceless. This can make or break your future. Okay, so what you do, real simple, go in the Enix account. Everybody's got the screen, the home screen. You go to the little wheel. You pull up this little screen, a processes screen, and you click on history query, NTN history query. That makes sense. I want to query all of my past NTN numbers. You go to the screen, you're going to hit the drop-down menu right there, pick create a date. You're going to go to the calendar over here and say, yeah, everything created maybe less than today or less than and equal to today. Just plug in a date there. And you're going to go ahead and just search and hit the search bar. It's that simple. And it will return to you all of the information prior to today and show you the last 87 days of proceed information along with denials and opens. All right, and anything in the last 3 days, anything being researched, that's all going to show up right there and then. Great information. You can't get any more detail than that. This system's been alive for a long time now. When you look at the report after you run it, it's going to be sorted by your create date because that's what we asked for. And we urge everyone, if you're ever transferring a delay firearm, go ahead and print that detail. And most of you are printing a detail for every transfer to prove that you had the right determination and you have the NTN information at the time of the transfer. It's all good. It's time stamped. And you're going to go ahead and just print that, keep it in your buddy file. We do not recommend attaching these to the 4473. We do recommend keeping them separate because, once in a while, somebody makes a mistake when they key in information into NICS. And they may have misspelled somebody's name wrong or date of birth. And, it's not always healthy to attach that type of information to the 4473 that's going to be inspected. But print it, keep it in your buddy file. Let's see. And it's going to show right down here the timestamp. On the day you handed a gun to somebody, you were still in the research, in still open status or delay status, and you are ready to go. You are okay and authorized to proceed. All right. So we blocked out those blue bars are just blocked out personal information from a report. But if you notice, these are all proceeds. If you look in the status column here, these are proceeds, but after 24 hours, the personal information is purged. It's no longer available, but you have a create date and you have an NTN number, and you can still print the detail over here. You can still show that on this date, you can print these, up to 87 days later, even though it doesn't have personal information, you can still print the proof for the NTN number that you had to proceed on a date. And that's all we need to do and prove if something goes from a delay to a denial. You have to prove you had to proceed. So make sure you're doing that. And the best thing you can do is go up to that top left action button. You print on that, and it allows you to download or export the entire file that you were just looking at on your screen. Download it, save it, whether it be once a day, once a week, once a month. It's a digital file you can save as a PDF to your hard drive someplace, your computer, very easy. Make it part of your closing procedure if you want. And you can absolutely audit yourself and make sure you have, first of all, a 4473 for every background check, and you have the right number for every 4473. It's very easy to reference. If down the road you need to look something up, you just go ahead and you open your file and you search by that create date. So run your history query daily. It gives you 87 days of the proceed information. Again, that disappears after 24 hours, but you do have access to the NTN and proof that you had the right disposition if you download that file. Print your details every day for daily for the delays. Remember, if you're transferring a delay, you want proof that it didn't turn into a denial later, as the ATF might see when they pull up that file when they come to inspect you someday. You want to say, no, when I transferred it, I was still in delay or open status. Run your report monthly, export it to your PDF file. And remember, all that information is in there only for 90 days. After 87 or 90 days, you are no longer able to ever see that proceed information ever again. All right, and all denied NTNs stay resident in your file forever. Just a FYI on that. And that's it. JC, you want to handle inspection violations?
Sure, absolutely. All right, so once again, top inspection violations. We're seeing it. Not acquiring, disposing of firearms timely. You have 24 hours on either end, whether acquiring the firearm or disposing of the firearm. We recommend getting it done as soon as it, obviously if you're electronic, it's a beautiful thing. It'll automatically be done as far as the disposition, but we recommend that you get that gun on your books as quickly as possible. All right. Incomplete 4473s. This is a big one. There's actually, I think, 4 or 5 different regulations around 4473 completion, and we continue to see this one pop up over and over again on our inspections as well as during ATF inspections. You got to make sure the form is complete. It starts at A and it ends at 36. All right. Missing signatures, incorrect or missing dates, constantly seeing missing signatures for rarely the original certification, but more so on the recertification if they come back a different day. Missing dates or incorrect dates are common issues. You got to pay attention to that certification date. They're either putting their birth date or their birth year. But you have to look at those expiration dates on the licenses, because sometimes they're stacked up. Make sure you're putting the correct dates there.
Yeah.
All right. That's constantly a problem.
Yeah. And even if you're using electronic software, I don't care which provider you have, your electronic keypads, electronic signature pads fail once in a while. So you can just be aware, you can always have you can always print out 4473 and have your customer wet sign it with a pen, wet sign it in ink, the old fashioned way. And it's also okay to have 2 signatures. If your electronic signature had just a couple dots or a line because it didn't capture the signature correctly, print that and let them sign it with a pen. No problem.
Remember, it has to have the appearance of a signature.
Yeah.
Just because your signature pad is bad, that's not an excuse. Missing incomplete NICs. We just talked about this, point of contact state control numbers. Make sure that you've got those numbers written down and are backing up that information just to protect yourself. Incomplete ID info, the issue or the type, the expiration date. We're seeing a lot, driver's license or concealed carry. You're not putting the issuing authority. Remember, you have to put the issuing authority and what it was. All right, that you looked at. Failure to submit or late. Sorry, I just had a weird pop-up come up. Failure to submit or late multiple firearm reporting. We're hearing this a lot again for some reason. It is not a week. It has to be submitted on the same business day as the multi-sale occurs. That 3310.4 is that handgun form, multiple handgun sales. Make sure you're submitting it on the same day that the multi-sale occurs. For you border states, southern border states, the 3310.12 for specific types of rifles. Make sure you're getting that in on the same business day as that multi-sale occurs.
And there's no exclusions for the 3310.12, right? No. It's all fine. It's all dealers. Oh, I'm sorry. Exclusions are manufacturers, right?
Manufacturers are excluded from that. Yes.
Yeah.
For right now.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in the future? Inspection targets, really easy. Anybody that's faced previous administrative action, those warning letters, those warning conferences, they're supposed to get to you in 12 months. 12 to 18 months is the norm. We have some outliers out there that have not been inspected in a couple of years after receiving a warning. So make sure if you've had administrative action that you're paying attention. All right.
And those no repeats, right? JC?
Yeah, no, you can have you have to show improvement. I won't say no repeat violations, but you damn well need to be near perfect. There definitely has to be noticeable improvement. If there is a repeat violation, they'll take a look at that and make a determination off of that. So high number time to crime traces. If you're on a demand 2 program, especially, but if you're an FFL and you're receiving a lot of trace requests and those trace requests are within a 3-year window, you are very susceptible to an inspection, especially if it gets down to a shorter time period. You're seeing stuff show up in crimes in 90 days, less than 6 months and things like that. That is going to flag to the ATF, to the tracing center, and they will push a referral down to the local field division. FFLs with a high number of denials, there's concern there. Why? Because they may feel or think or know or suspect that you're a target from the criminal element, people trying to buy guns from you. So keep that in mind. Not responding to traces in 24 hours. This one's a revocation, period. You will get revoked if you do not respond to a trace request in 24 hours. Make sure you have accurate information on file with the ATF at the National Tracing Center. They know how to get a hold of you or somebody to get that information. If you're going on vacation and you're the only person, you can let the tracing center know, hey, I'm going to be out on vacation, whatnot. Here's the deal. All right. FFLs with reported thefts, losses, that's going to be an inspection. Losses, if you're a distributor or manufacturer and you're shipping a firearm to an FFL and it's a loss in transit, that's looked at a little differently. But if you have a burglary, robbery, any type of theft of a firearm, you might be susceptible to an inspection. Higher volume transfers, next point of contact background checks. We bring this one up because a lot of times during the pre-workup, you might pop for an inspection, but during the pre-work that they do before they come in to do your inspection, they may see you don't have a high volume of transfers. So maybe we won't put you on a priority list to inspect you. But I can guarantee you, if they see a lot of background checks being conducted over an 88-day period or 60-day period is what they usually pull, you might move further up on the list. All right. Last inspection was more than 5 years ago. Remember, the target for ATF is 3 to 5 years. Right now, I know for a fact that any FFLs that haven't been inspected in 10 years or more are high priority right now. So keep that in mind. If you're going over 5 years, you're highly susceptible to an inspection.
All right, everybody, grab your keyboards. Let's see if you can find out where that T key is. Find a T key. T is in Tom or true on your keyboard. If you find it, go ahead and click it. Let's see if you know how to click these. Click that T button. Anybody? JC, how's that look?
We got T's coming in.
T's. All right, now find the F button. Find the F button right below the T, I think, to the left there. All right, there we go. All right, guys, we asked the question. You provide the answer. Are we ready? We're set. Go. JC, true or false? You should always attach copies of IDs and CCWs to 4473s.
I see a lot of F's coming in, a lot of F's, a lot of falses. Very good. Yes, do not attach the ID or a CCW to the 4473. It is not required. All right, if you want to keep it for your buddy file, by all means, keep it for your buddy file. I know some of you pawnbrokers out there actually upload them into your system so you have it on file or whatever, but don't keep a copy of that with the 4473. Remember, we want that thing clean. We want only what's required to be there. Let's make that inspection the ATF conducts even quicker, even smoother. We don't want anything that slows them down. All right, next question.
Yeah, we actually love them in the buddy file, especially when you need to figure out a driver's license number or expiration date.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, it's always best to use blue pen on form 4473s. True or false?
Come on, give me those answers. Woo, I'm getting a little bit of both. Blue Somebody
pen.
likes N. Somebody likes N. I guess that's a no. ATF told me to attach. That's a good one. Yeah. Okay. Well, first and foremost, no. Don't use a blue pen. There's nothing that it just has to be done in a blue or black pen, but we recommend using a black pen. Everything should be done in a black pen. Why? Because it matches the ink of the 4473. Blue makes everything stand out more. Okay.
It's easier for the inspector. Hint, hint.
Yep. So,
And a missing box that's supposed to have blue ink in there stands out really
yeah.
blatant.
So black pens, folks.
Yeah. You are required to keep copies of FFLs when sending FFL to FFL transfers.
True or false? True or false? A little bit of mix. A little bit of mix, JB.
The answer is
False. You are required to receive a copy of the FFL you are transferring to, and you are required to verify via FFL Easy Check. You are not required to maintain a copy of it. Now, obviously, if you want to maintain copies, that's fine. It is a best practice. Keep them in a separate file. We recommend you purge them annually to make sure that any that are expired, if it's somebody you do business with regularly, go ahead and ask them for a new copy of their FFL, especially now with all the revocations and such going on. So, but you are not required to keep a copy once you've received it and verified it.
valid tribal government identification documents. Native American Indians, I would suspect, are acceptable forms of photo ID for firearm transfers.
Again, I got a little bit of a mix. I got quite a few trues. I got a few falses. I got question marks from Dan. Now, obviously, some of this doesn't apply to you because you probably may not have
Reservation.
tribal land near you or a reservation or anything. So go ahead, JB. Yes, that is true. That is true. It has to be an authentic tribal government issued identification document. Typically, those go through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. That's who is the convening authority. So,
Thanks, Matt. Matt Guest. All
yeah.
right. That's good. You never know when they're traveling. They might show up for a long gun someplace.
Yeah.
Digital or internet documents, an official government website showing photo IDs and updates or renewals are legal for proof of photo ID for the Form 4473.
What do we got here? Let's see. Got a lot of falses, a few trues, some falses. All right, JB, what do we got? True. Yes, as long as you can tell that it, first of all, if it's from a government website or an app like we have in Colorado, that is permissible. You can use a digital ID.
And a lot of that comes into play with 26B, where somebody might be having a renewal license and an address or,
Or a middle name issue, something like that. Yep.
All right, let's keep going. You guys having fun? Give us a Y. Oh, can they give us a Y if they're having fun yet?
Sure. Give us a Y if you're having fun. There you go.
Good.
All right, cool. All right, true or false, JB, let's go.
You must provide a digital download of your bound book to the IOI when ATF shows up for an inspection. You must provide.
Again, a little bit of a mix, a little bit of mix. All right, JB. False. You are not required to give them a digital download of your bound book. A couple of things here. Number one, the thing that scares me the most with this is we've had a lot of inspections occur where the FFL has provided them a digital download of their bound book in Excel, and the IOI attempted to cite the FFL because the bound book didn't have the correct headings on it. When we challenged them, we proved that when you downloaded it in a PDF or did the download of the file in the format under the audit program, it provided it with the correct heading. So be very careful with this. We're seeing a lot of times that if the IOI is requesting this because they want to take it off property and go back to their hotel or go back to their office and review it. According to their own policies and procedures, audits or inspections are supposed to occur on site. So, and you have no control over that file after it leaves your control. So you need to make sure that you're doing things right and according to the rules.
And I'm just thinking about that engage in a business ruling we just reviewed. What happens if they look at that file and all of a sudden sort it different ways and find out that, JB bought 30 guns from you in the last 2 years? Ooh, that might turn into an instant issue. So yeah, control your data. And again, the IOI is going to show up and simply hand you a thumb drive and say, "Oh, I'd like, just download your bound book to this to the jump drive for me." And the answer is, let me call my consultant. Wait a minute. I don't know if I have to, do I have to do that? Is it a requirement or an option? And you might feel a little skittish about doing that, but give us a call. Yeah, we'll get through it with you.
Yeah.
All right, JC, you must print out all 7 pages of the 4473 for every Form 4473 transfer, including instructions if you're using paper 4473 storage.
Oh, thank God it's a lot of T's. I was gonna die if there are so
All right.
many F's.
Okay.
Yeah, for some
back.
reason here recently, we've had a lot of inspections that we've conducted where it's like 3 pages, and we're like, where are the other 4 pages at? So yes, true. Thank you. All 7 pages. That's your instructions must be included. And I don't know about you, JB, but I've had a couple inspections here in the last few weeks. Duplex printers, folks. You can print on both sides of the paper when you're printing off the 4473. So keep that in mind, that you can print on both sides. I have had a couple FFLs actually tell me, oh, I didn't know it was allowed to be printed on both sides. So
Yeah.
yes, you can save yourself some paper.
There you go. All right, cloud storage is the best method for storing 4473s.
See what we got. We got some falses. We got
Best is the big word there. Best is the big word.
Yeah, we got a few. Hell no. We got a hell no. All right, JB, what's the answer? False-ish. False-ish. Look, if you want to go the path of electronic and cloud storage, it's all well and good, but you really, really need to be paying attention to your compliance. So many times we find issues, and this is a recent inspection we did where I'm looking through their 4473s via their cloud storage provider, and I have like 4473s that had been touched 16 times. The one thing you have to remember with cloud storage is if you make any corrections, there's going to be a revision tracked. So this FFL touched a 4473 16 times. Huge red flag to me. Like, what are you doing to this 4473 that it needed to be touched 16 times? You know, so be mindful of that if you're going to go, and we say false-ish, if you're going to go down this path, your compliance has to be uptight. Don't rely on your E4473 provider and your EA&D book provider 100%. You, as the FFL, are responsible to ensure that that form and that transfer was conducted lawfully and properly. All right.
All right, next, piggyback to that. Using an electronic bound book or gun log A&D is proven to be much more accurate and saves time and reduces errors than traditional paper bound books.
Let's see here. A lot of T's. Oh, a couple F's. Huh. How about that?
I think they're screwing with us.
I think so too. I think somebody's trying to be funny. A lot of truths. All right, JB. Yes, absolutely true. Like I just said,
Thanks, Robert.
Using false-ish, using electronic bound books, using electronic 4473 applications, great solutions out there. You know, we partner with a couple providers in this space, and I will tell you right now, there is a lot of fail safes built into these systems to protect you. But once again, they can't protect you from everything. Human error can still occur. So you do have to ensure that you are checking that 4473, that double check right before you transfer that firearm. But I will tell you that your electronic 4473 providers out there, like your fast bounds, great solutions. So, you know, check them out, but, you know, make sure that you are doing that double check.
Yeah, I hope everyone gets this next one right, JC.
All right.
Electronic 4473 is proven to reduce errors and improve FFL compliance.
Boy,
Come on, everybody. Yeah.
Oh, hey now. I think true-ish. Well, actually, JB, true. Yes, true-ish. I like that. Again, I'm just going to beat this into your heads. You have to make sure that you're just double checking that form before you do that transfer. Errors can happen, so just keep that in mind.
Now, we're talking about electronic 4473, not storage, just using the filters and parameters and controls within all those different software packages to make sure we get, you know, birth dates or expiration dates, not birth dates. Yesterday can't be a today date, you know, that type of thing. So, you know, try to get the right information in the right box and make sure all the boxes are checked That's some of the big advantages to electronic 4473. Make sure everybody checks those boxes in 21A, all those prohibiting questions, which is, you know, a big fail. We find a lot of those missed on paper forms, the prohibiting questions. So electronic 4473 can solve a lot of problems for you. Okay. All right, I think this is still having fun, JC. Exchanging a broken revolver within 5 business days requires a form 3310.4 to be completed. And Stetson, you're not allowed to answer this question. Exchanging a broken revolver within 5 business days requires the form 3310.4. What do we say? False. Oh, a lot of falses, JC.
Some trues. Some trues. What do we got? True. True. If you exchange a broken revolver for a new firearm and it happened within 5 business days, yes, requires a form 3310.4 to be completed.
Yeah, we've had 2 FFLs in the last 2 years fail on this one, and we argued and failed. We lost. It's a transfer is a transfer is a transfer, even if it's an exchange.
Yep.
Okay. You can add any category or type of second firearm to any 4473 that has been submitted for a background check but is currently in delay or open status.
False, false, false. Everybody's coming in with falses. Good job. Yes, absolutely. You should not be adding firearms to a 4473 once you've initiated a background check. Now, if it's a pistol and another pistol, yeah, you can. Our rule of thumb is don't add anything to the 4473 once you've initiated the background check. But in that situation where it's a like firearm, you can.
If the customer has bad handwriting and printing and you cannot read or understand the correct spelling of your customer's name on line 9 of the 4473, you, the FFL, can legally print the name above it, above what is written for better and easier reference.
See, I'm getting a little bit of a mix, trues and falses. What say you, JB?
I say true.
True. It's actually written right in the instructions. You can actually print, if it's unlegible or illegible, you can actually print their name above on line 9. Yeah. Not any other line, just line 9.
Yeah, and that's going to be down the road. Think about this, a year or 2 down the road for a trace, they're going to want to know whose name that was, right? All right, I think this is our last page. If my background check was delayed and later approved or proceeded, but the customer never returned to pick up the firearm, Form 4473 boxes 34 and 35, the FFL's printed name and signature can be left blank.
What do we got? What do we got? Oops, there we go. Looks like all falses. Oh, and true. What say you? True-ish. True-ish.
And we're gonna self-admit here. We didn't know the right answer to one of our clients who's an attorney actually challenged us on this, and we went to FIPB at the ATF and we got the real answer.
Yep.
So
they actually sent us back a response that says, no, you do not have to, whatchamacallit, or I'm sorry, you do have to complete lines 34 and 35. Printed name and signature can be left blank. We recommend actually just completing the form. Remember, it's evidence of a transfer, an attempted transfer, and you're not going to remember what employee, or if you're a sole employed FFL, if you're the only person there, that's one thing. But if you have employees, we recommend completing 34 and 35. But yes, you can actually leave 34 and 35 blank per the ATF. And if you want that FIPB ruling, we'll gladly give it to you.
And piggyback to that.
Yep.
JC, just every form 4473 where the background check is denied or canceled by NICS must include the FFL's printed name and signature in box 3435. So this one's a given. Yeah. So that's that. So there's 2 scenarios. You can print and sign all of those 4473s, but on the proceeds that aren't picked up, you do not have to. It just won't be marked as a violation if the inspection yields that. So.
Right. Yep.
If a background check is delayed in states where NICS allows for concealed handgun license exemptions It's okay to transfer the firearm if the customer can produce a valid, concealed license, LTC, instead of waiting for a next decision on a delay.
Getting a lot of falses. Getting a lot of
Well,
falses.
we've talked about this, I think, for the last dozen webinars. So
Yeah, yeah. All right, false. Once you've initiated that background check, that is done. No, you cannot accept their concealed carrier license to carry in lieu of the background check. We've had several instances where FFLs have actually gone through the revocation process because of this. So keep that in mind. Once you initiate a background check, you're done. You've got to continue down that path.
okay. Last question is, should we continue this process in our webinars monthly? T for yes, F for no. Shush.
You don't like it. Good.
All right, cool.
Good.
Thanks, guys. A little variety to our program. Hey, rule number one, when it comes to compliance, slow down. Many of you have heard me both on location and on the phone tell you that over the last couple months. Slow down your process. Remember, this is critical time for you. Woohoo! JC, let me hear a woohoo.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Hey, look at this, guys. Great ATF compliance. This is the first time, and we are very proud of this, the first time that we've had this many of you all pass an ATF inspection with flying colors in 1 month. I think there's 10 or 11 or 12 here. But hey, big round of applause to all of you. I don't have my sound effects up here. Ed in Florida, Cheney around Alabama, Nathan, Indiana, Eric, Michigan, John in Indiana, Kiki, again, in Texas, Stephen, Tennessee, Freddie, North Carolina, Terry, Mississippi, Sam, Florida, way to go, Sam, and Noah over in Colorado, way to go, guys. And just on our inspections, we're sad to say we only had a handful versus that. So luckily we were there, not the ATF. Charles, Florida. I'm sorry. Yes, Charles, you had great results. Kevin, Georgia, Barb, Washington, Kenny in PA, and Beth in Florida. The rest of our inspections, probably another dozen or so, not so good. So keep up the good work, everybody. Pass your next inspection with flying colors. And JC, you did well.
Yeah, we've actually had a pretty good last, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks with revocations. We won 6, we lost 2. Unfortunately, we're helping those FFLs out through that process. Luckily, we have some opportunities for them, so that's a good thing. But I'd like to congratulate John, Aaron, Matt, the other Aaron in Wisconsin, Eric and Ed. We were able to get them through their revocation hearings unscathed. Obviously, once again, we'd rather see you not go through that process. But for those folks that went through the process, we were able to defend their FFL and demonstrate to the ATF that the FFL would be compliant going forward. So good job to those guys. I couldn't have done it without their and their team's support, but we were able to provide some and present some good arguments for them. So
Good. Job well done, all of you guys. Hey, ready, guys? Time to get educated. Almost. We have commitments, and I know we said this last month too. We have commitments from our developer to have our next course available this week, rather. It's supposed to be the end of this week again, but we ran into some snags. But how to master that ATF 4473 should be available the end of this week. You'll get a note. Egg on our face. Sorry about that, but make sure you folks are going to that homepage, logging in and getting ready. There's almost 700 of you registered already. About 400 have taken that first course, navigating firearms categories and types. But get everybody else signed up. Get all of your employees signed up and get ready to jump in and take this course starting next week. We do need you all to remember, after you and your employees sign up initially with your unique email account, that you go into the My Account button, actually right up here to settings. After you sign up and get the verify email in your inbox, go back in there and go ahead and update your file with your name so that we can print it properly on your certificates and in future email notifications. And a note here, guy, every employee needs to create their own account and sign on using their own email. Don't worry about your company name. Don't worry about whether you're a VIP or a premium retail member or whatever. Just go in there and get us signed up. We'll take care of the rest. VIPs are already all of the VIP employees are already logged in so that you guys can easily have all your employees take your courses as they come up. And remember, the correct spelling of the student's name is important. It will be used on certificates of completion. So get that done. And then we had some questions about how do I print my certificate? Well, that's real easy. After you complete a quiz, you simply go into the course description. Right at the top, it says digital assets. You're just going to click on that. And right here at the this box will pop up as, saying, congratulations, you have a digital asset, which means a certificate right now. We'll have other things down the road, but go ahead and just click on that red button, getting you a digital asset. It'll allow you to go ahead and print or save your certificate to a file, a PDF, or print it to your computer. You just right click in that menu and print to your computer instead of saving as a PDF. But here's the most important thing is the date on the certificate will be the date you print it or save it. If you don't print it or save it for a couple months, the date will be a couple months later. Okay, unfortunately, they're trying to fix that for us. It doesn't stay resident. So let your employees, as soon as they go ahead and finish the course, take the quiz, get the certificate, either print it and give it to you for the file, so you can prove to the ATF you have a training program in place, or save it as a PDF in your computer. JC, what happened to the 9 deadly sins?
Well, unfortunately, we had one, I think it was last week or the week before, where an FFL is being revoked because they had hired an individual that is a prohibited person. They're a felon. There's argument here with this one, but the individual was allegedly doing paperwork only, but worked in the store, etc., and there was no evidence that his duties and responsibilities were segregated. So there are no longer 9 deadly sins. There are now 10 deadly sins. Yes, as part of the NICS Denial Notification Act, there was language in there for the ATF and NICS to present an option or an opportunity for FFLs to conduct background checks through the NICS system. We're still anticipating something coming down the pipe in June, July, hopefully. But just keep in mind, if you're hiring employees, you need to make sure that the individuals you're hiring are not prohibited persons. Either conducting a background check. Many FFLs, they hire their customers who buy guns from them regularly, so you can somewhat be assured that if an individual could buy a gun, they're not prohibited. But just be aware that there has to be a clear delineation of duties. If you have somebody working for you that's a prohibited person, say you're a big box retailer, that prohibited person can work in footwear as long as they have nothing to do with the firearms department. So just be aware of that. We just had our first victim of this.
Yep. All right. Hey, if you're in any of these cities over the next 2 months, we're coming to see you. JC and myself will be there at the ATF NICS Training Days, Milwaukee, Auburn Hills, Michigan, New Philadelphia, Ohio, then down to Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina. So if you haven't seen the invite for these events, I got it on the next slide, or give us a call or a ring. We'll send it to you. You should watch your email for that. We'll also be at the NSSF Range Retailer Expo. I think that's in June. It's either June or July.
Yeah, June.
June.
Hold on, I got it sitting right in front of me. I just got one of the cards.
National Pawn Association presentation in July. Come see me. And then Dixie Pawn in September over in Orange Beach. So
July 10th and 11th, West Palm Beach.
West Palm Beach, and then
Range Retailer Business Expo.
And PA is the end of July in Vegas. So we'll see you guys there. But we could, again, the NICS retailer training days have been great and they're free. So why not join?
Yeah, exactly.
There's your information as to how to go ahead and get signed up for those NICS retailer days. I will send this presentation out this week along with PDF so you can use it. But take a picture of that if you want. It's real easy. NICS_events@fbi.gov. Just tell them your FFL name and number, how many people are going to come, and which event you want to attend.
Yeah.
And we've had full houses at these things, so make sure you get your request in soon. If you're new to us, we promote the National Shooting Sports Foundation Premium Retail Membership Program. Everything to keep you compliant, get us there for a day. They support the NSSF Own Shot Show, in case you didn't know that. $25,000 of legal defense fund if you do get in trouble or have adverse action, and a slew of online web resources, and member support. So if you want more information on that, please give us a ring. Definitely send you the information on that. And we are at rapid fire. Okay.
All right, give it to me, JB.
Okay, I've started from the beginning, John. If these are repetitive in some way, bear with me, because we went over a lot of information.
Sure.
With the new non-dealer law, it appears we can still take a firearm from a non-dealer and do a person-to-person transfer. However, are we in conspiracy to commit a crime or felony, aiding or abetting in the commission of a felony, since the non-dealer could be committing a crime?
You know, here's the deal. If you're facilitating a private party transfer, again, it's frequency, right? And to predominantly earn a profit. Selling one gun, they're saying that, you know, an individual selling their firearm from their personal collection on occasion is not going to be an issue. When you, and believe it or not, we actually had an FFL in the last week or two who one of their employees goes out and buys guns and sell and on it under their own name and then sells them to the FFL. Well, in that situation, they're, you know, whether or not they're engaged in the business is the question. So look at it on occasion, look at frequency. I don't see that as being an issue.
Yeah. All right. Are we required to report an obvious straw deal attempt to anyone?
Are you required to? No, but does it behoove you to? Sure. Local law enforcement, local ATF office. Again, you know, we go back to that training and communications log. You present that information, you get in trouble with the ATF and you have that training and comm log, and we can demonstrate, hey, you know, this FFL that you're trying to revoke, they're providing a lot of intelligence to the ATF. You know, should you report straw purchases? Absolutely. And you should also have a straw purchase log or some sort of system that you can easily identify and question anytime you have a potential straw purchase.
Yeah. Okay, the next one says the rules do back to engage in the business without a license. Someone says the rules do affect us dealers if we are facilitating a non-dealer to transfer at a basically at a gun show. Yeah, you know what? I hear this all the time where someone's selling guns without a license at a table and they want to come over to you to have the background check done. That's the silliest thing in the world for me. So
Yeah.
I
don't know why you would even facilitate that.
Right. That guy shouldn't be selling guns without a license to begin with. And he's taking money out of our industry, taking money away from the legit gun dealer. So the answer is yes, you are facilitating and will be facilitating unethical and probably crime in the eyes of the ATF doing that in the future. So don't do that. Yep. We will clarify. No, okay. Can consignments to sell online consider the seller as in the business? Consignments to sell online, are they considered the seller as in the business? The answer is simply yes.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at frequency. On occasion, but you know, if that individual is selling a lot of guns through you, then there's a question. Think about all the things you've done to get into the business of lawful commerce and firearms. And these individuals are just gonna, you know, hop in and say, well, I don't care about the process. I don't think I should be licensed. You know, you went through all the process. You're paying for insurance, you're paying for rent, you're paying for all these different things. And here's this Joe Schmo who wants to be in the business, but doesn't want to jump through all the hoops that you jump through.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Gerald asks, are CNR FFL03 holders exempt from the CNR firearms, or I guess from engaged in the business? The answer is yes. Yeah. As I said earlier, anyone with an FFL license is basically exempt as long as you're not facilitating or supporting conspiracy to someone who's dealing in guns without a license. You should be fine. Yeah. The buyer's photo ID is a California driver's license. It shows only a first and last name. The buyer has a full middle name. Other ID, such as a social security card or other, shows middle name. What would be on the ATF 4470, and what document should be FFL obtained from the buyer?
Yeah, 26B, you don't have to obtain a copy, you just need to see something. It has to be government issued. And in 26B, you would put the issuing authority, the state or the county or whatever the jurisdiction is, and what it was you looked at. No expiration dates, no control numbers, issuing authority, and what you looked at. That's it.
Yeah, no copies of anything, just the government
No.
issuing authority and they. So Bob, we agree with you. All of this reads like a bunch of Democratic double talk. And the bottom line is this: anybody on this call who's second guessing what we're trying to tell you, good luck. And we just hope you're not the poster child in your neighborhood for the ATF starting to enact this rule. We urge you to proceed with caution. Until this is all vetted out and either repealed or extinguished. I mean, this is what's going to happen, as we saw with different rulings over the last couple of years. So react accordingly. And we're not your attorney, but do the best you can to be compliant with the ruling. All right. Does the limited temporary injunction on the engagement of business cover all GOA members, or do you have to be a resident of one of the states involved in a lawsuit? I have no idea. I read that last night. As stipulated, the states that were included in that and mentioned primarily Utah, and I forget the other two, Louisiana, I think, were not included at all in the exemption. So I would go Google it and try to find out some more information on that as soon as possible if you're a member of GOA, or call GOA directly. Call your membership team and see what they can tell you.
Yeah.
Are FFLs liable for buying firearms from someone who may later be determined engaged in business without a license? Example, private selling brings you a collected gun, online gun forums. And what does FFL have to do to stay legal?
Look, you need to look at the frequency and intent and, is it occasional or what is it? What's the situation? Again, you got to look at the frequency. I mean, if you have an individual who's dumping guns at your door every day, or, once a month or once a quarter, and it's of somewhat frequency, then you need to start asking yourself a question: where are these guns coming from?
Yeah. Mark says the ATF's turning FFL holders into ATF investigators if we are proving info for their research into a potential crime. Trace requests were originally used to trace firearms found in a direct connection with the crime. Mark, I think we agree with you, but if you have an alternative to, and you have a good attorney, I'd say go ahead and say, well, I'm not going to help you, ATF, even though you provide a license to me. I mean, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place right now, but
yeah, there's nothing that requires you to report any of this to the ATF per the ruling. It's just you need to start paying attention to what's going on, and more so if you have an individual that's coming in and buying multiple of the same handguns or multiple handguns. He's only got two hands. I appreciate the profit piece of it, but at some point you got to turn around and say, what are you doing with all these guns? We have a lot of FFLs out there that we've brought this up to them during inspections, and they scratch their head and say, gee whiz, I never even thought, I just thought, hey, he passes a background check, I'm giving him a gun, I'm making, money. So what if he goes, turns around and sells them? Well, not so what? You have to think about it like this. Is he your competition? Are you basically facilitating your competition with firearms? Is he undercutting you and you losing sales as a result of it? That's really, you're a business person first and foremost. You are in the business of selling firearms. You've gone through the hoops of becoming an FFL. You got to look at that. All right.
Yep. Yeah. To piggyback onto that, I was at 3 ATF training days with the NICS teams last week. My NSSF, ATF, FBI. No, not in 3 different parts of the country. The ATF had no comment on any of this, as they did not even understand the ruling themselves. So that's the plus. The sad part is the Biden administration enacted this as of today, and they're supposed to have reach out sessions, meaning more training. But as we've seen with different programs like the new 4473s and the marketing ruling, I mean, the law's in place. Just because somebody didn't tell you to slow down doesn't mean you're not going to be accused of speeding. So I would just, again, proceed with caution, as we do not know exactly how this is going to affect every gun dealer. But we do kind of sense how it's going to affect a person trying to sell firearms without a license.
Yeah.
Rich
really,
says,
the premise of this whole thing was to shut down the gun show, quote unquote, loophole. So,
and the web sales.
And the web sales.
Yeah. All right. How does this rule affect non-licensees here in Colorado, i.e., a state that has a law that private sales have to go through an FFL?
Yeah, private party transfers. I mean, look, you're doing it through an FFL, you're doing it on a 4473. But if you got a guy that's showing up every week with, doing transfers through you, again, he's selling guns and you're facilitating the process. look at it from a business perspective. You know, are you losing money because this guy's selling guns on the side and hasn't jumped through all the hoops that you did? That's how I'm looking at this whole thing.
Yep. If ATF gives a person a special number to use to make purchases, where on the 4473 do you write that number? And
Oh, the U pin?
yeah, it's actually the FBI that provides that number. Yeah.
The U pin
That goes into line 19, 17,
17, yeah.
17. Yeah.
17. You don't need to see anything. You just need to make sure you include it during the background check.
Yeah. It's usually a 9-digit, a 7-digit or 11-digit. Anyway.
I've got mine right here. Hold on, I'll tell you.
UPIN and the AMD both get written into box 17 on the 4473. Okay.
I have it around here somewhere.
All right. I'll go to the next one. Can the owner of the FFL license buy a gun in his name, then sell it to his FFL?
Yeah. I don't know why you would, but yeah. We have a lot of dealers that buy a firearm, and after a while they say, nah, I don't like that gun. I'm just going to sell it back to the FFL. So the gun dealer, so your shop sells it. Yeah, that's fine. Totally fine. You're a responsible person on a license. They're not looking at you.
Yeah. You're gonna acquire it from you in that case and then dispose it out to a customer eventually.
Yeah. Totally acceptable. I don't see any issue with that.
Would you share how the 4473 overlay sheet you offer for sale works to ensure accuracy? I'll go second on this one, Jason.
All right. So the overlay, we don't sell it. The National Shooting Sports Foundation sells it through their store. It just highlights all of the various fields on the form 4473. So you can quickly scan the form to ensure that all the required boxes are completed properly. It's just a little bit more efficient way, I guess, to look at the 4473. JB and I don't use them anymore because we look at so many 4473s, we know what to look for. But for you all just to slap that overlay on the page and verify everything is completed and correct, it just makes things go a little bit smoother so you don't overlook something.
Yeah, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but I don't like them because it shows which boxes need to be filled in, but it doesn't verify the information is correct.
Yeah.
I have found many times incorrect. You have stores and FFLs that use them. I call it a beginner's guide.
Yeah.
It's good for beginners, but the person reviewing that form, your number 2, number 3 person must be looking at each box. There's 36 boxes. Look at each box individually, make sure the information's accurate, complete, and
ensure the information is correct. Yeah.
JC, how long does it take to review a form, right?
Well, we like 15 seconds, 15 to 30 seconds traditionally. That's how long it takes us to look at a form. We go through them pretty quickly, but we have a scanning process that we do, so it's fairly efficient.
Yeah. If a customer wants to sell us a self-defense pistol, are they engaging in the business? We offer trades, consignments, and outright purchases. Just wondering how that will be affecting it.
It goes right back down to that occasional, right? If it's occasional, if it's infrequent, then there's not a concern, not a problem there.
Yeah, and the ATF is not looking at folks buying or selling guns to FFLs per se.
Yeah.
Again, licensees kind of seem to be the big box that they want all the guns to go to. They want, if you look at all the rule and all the text through this engaged in, this ruling, and if anybody's selling a gun to an FFL, for the most part, it looks to be okay.
Yeah.
It's that person-to-person transfer without a background check that is the big piece that I'm worried about.
Yep.
Frame and receiver rule. What will happen to pre-68 unmarked collector pieces if the new rule comes into effect? Will FFLs have to mark them, ruining the value?
No. Pre-68 unmarked collector pieces. No, that's not a personally made firearm. That's not a PMF. So don't confuse the PMF with pre-68, pre-Gun Control Act, unmarked or non-marked firearms. No, two totally different things.
Yeah, and we don't want to throw the kibosh on everything. Collectors, curio and relics, that's protected area to the industry. But if somebody's out there with a beautiful, say Winchester collection, every gun since 1917. every Winchester. I mean, that's also in there on the other conversation and text that basically says you're okay to do that occasionally, sell guns occasionally, trade them for because of value and different things. But that's not your intent, isn't to build a collection to sell it for $1 million. The intent piece does fall into there, but you're allowed to do it occasionally. Again, we don't know what occasionally truly means. And the bigger focus is on modern firearms. Yeah, and think about it, the guns that are getting sold to bad people by bad people, so, and used in crimes, all right.
Yeah.
20 days, Matthew said 20 days unless proceed is received, not LEO exempt, I don't think.
No,
Matthew,
there is an LEO exception. It's LEO, law enforcement agencies and LEO between two LEO officers. So if, I'm a cop and I want to sell my gun to, John Doe and he's a cop, then yes, that is an exempt transaction.
Yep. In Michigan, it states permit to purchase effective date early 2024. Exactly what does permit to purchase mean? Yeah, guys, we went over this a couple months back. It took effect in March. Michigan has a lot of state laws now regarding purchase of firearm, handguns specifically, and assault weapons. So if you're doing any business in Michigan, let's Don, I know you're worried about that.
Yeah.
But you're in South Carolina. Give us watch our restrictive states guide. We kind of did a lot of work on issuing the Michigan statute, explaining it. Michigan's complicated, guys. If you have Michigan residents coming to your state, either call us or
Yeah.
I guess
Michigan
call
actually
us.
had a permit to purchase some time ago. They got rid of it. Now they're bringing it back, and a permit to purchase is issued through, I think it's the local jurisdiction, the local police department, and they have to obtain a permit to purchase before they can buy a firearm. So there's a handful of states that have permits to purchase.
And
That's all that means.
there's exemptions for concealed carry and that type of
Yeah,
thing.
there's exemptions and things like that, but a permit to purchase is just that. They go to a local law enforcement agency, obtain the permit, they bring the permit to you, and you're required to file it with your paperwork, not with the 4473, but you can maintain it separately. But they have to have that permit before the purchase can even be transacted.
And in Michigan, that gets filled out and signed by the FFL and the customer and gets sent back to the sheriff's department. So again, complicated. So when in doubt, stop. When in doubt, don't do it.
Yeah, Michigan, I think, is state police.
Yeah. Brian says, I keep getting asked about personal transfers to a family member under the new ruling. Can you give me a quick answer to the question, please?
Yep, sure. Private party transfers between family members is not an issue, not a concern.
Yeah. Now, if Johnny's raising the price on all the guns he's selling to his cousins, that could be a problem.
Yeah. But generally speaking, the everyday transfer of a firearm between family members is totally fine.
Are we seriously obligated to grill every customer about what their intentions are when buying firearms? How far is too far with questioning, or what is the right amount? Even worse, are we seriously obligated to stick our nose in the business or find out their intentions of a private party transfer? I feel like less the know, the better you know, the better off you are. And quite the opposite, Stetson. Very opposite, actually. At the beginning of the day, as a firearms dealer, you're obligated to qualify every transfer, period.
Yep. You have to qualify their interest and their intent. You want to make sure that you're selling a gun to somebody that should be getting a gun. That's your whole point of being in business as a licensed dealer, is to positively influence public safety, ensure firearms are transacted properly. So qualify their interest, qualify their intent. Trust me, there's a lot of FFLs out there that are involved in major lawsuits right now that are being sued by by individuals as well as countries. So you got to make sure you're doing everything right.
Yeah, you don't want to get sued. And if you tell the ATF you don't do that and you're selling guns to make money, and if they pass a background check, you're good with everything else, you're probably going to they're probably going to refuse to renew your license. They won't revoke you right away, but they can refuse to renew your license. Yeah. In states where it's legal for person-to-person sales, what would keep a person from buying and selling person-to-person and never goes to the gun shows or online? Isn't this ruling creating or at least growing a black market?
There's already a black market for firearms. There's already a black market for firearms. Look, again, they're looking at frequency and occasion, and again, it's focused more on that gun show loophole piece where firearms are being transacted to anybody willy-nilly that, from somebody who doesn't have a license and is making a profit off of it. And again, you have to look at it as a business person. Is this person undercutting you, right? And on top of that, we're dealing with it right now in Colorado with the licensing of FFLs. Because why? Because we have a large capacity magazine ban in the state of Colorado. And unfortunately, nobody enforces the law, or fortunately, nobody will enforce the law. So the state said, okay, if you're not going to, follow the rules, then we're going to create state licensing for you. So we have an obligation as an industry to make sure that we're doing everything right. Otherwise, this kind of crazy stuff is going to start happening.
Yeah. Do Colorado FFLs need to use an ENIX account even though we use CBI for background
No,
check?
no, you stick with CBI.
Yeah, we forgot to mention
You
that.
can't get an ENIX. In the state of Colorado, you get a summary report with all of the different, many of the point of contact states, you get a summary report of all your background checks. You need to make sure you're keeping those summary reports. So that way, if you do have to go back and find a control number, you can find that control number.
Yeah, and that would be similar to any point of contact state, guys. We've got California, Washington, Pennsylvania, et cetera. So
yeah, yep.
Can you revisit an open status after a delay and it never changed? Is there a risk to the FFL if it is transferred after the Brady date?
You need to make sure that anything that's open, this is one of the things that we recommend, especially with compliance action plans, is that in the morning when you open up, get it, if you're a NICS or even if you're a point of contact state, make sure you're signing in and checking the status of any delays, et cetera. You need to be paying attention to that. And looking for if a status change occurs, just in case, God forbid, it turns into a denial or whatever the case may be, you're at least aware of it and the potential that you're going to be getting a phone call to say, hey, that's a denial now, and letting them know, hey, the customer has a firearm. So, yes. And you need to make sure you're doing it so you can update the form properly. We've seen this violation cited a number of times where 27 ABC C, I think it's 27C, isn't updated. D. Sorry, D. You just need to make sure that you're getting that corresponding form updated appropriately. So
here's the biggest danger is where you check your NICS status screen at 9 a.m. in the morning when you open and it says open. You call your customer and say, hey, Bob, you can come pick up your gun. It's been 6 days.
Yeah.
They show up at 3 in the afternoon and you hand them gun.
Yep.
Without going back into NICS,
Yep.
ENICS, and checking again right before you hand them the gun.
Right. Yep.
That can change at any minute on any day.
And what's the risk there? The risk is you transferred a firearm to somebody that's been denied. So you got to make sure you're checking that information regularly.
You check it at 9, it says open. At 10 o'clock, it changes it into a denial. And at 3 o'clock, you hand them the gun. That's a revocation.
Yeah.
Again, in Washington State, we do not go to NICS anymore. We go through State Patrol.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we just talked about that. Oregon as well.
Yeah.
All history evaporates, best practices from John, not required by you.
He asked a question, or Washington Bar Association. We can't access a history. Look, it's not a requirement of ATF for you to review that information. It's a best practice.
Yeah.
And it could support you. I just had one last week on an on-site inspection where we were lucky enough to obtain the NICS number because the NICS number was missing from the 4473.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. It's not a requirement in any way. It's a best practice.
Yep.
It could save your license.
Yeah. How would the ATF see if someone isn't acquiring, disposing timely? That's very easy. During the inspection, they're going to compare your 4473s to your bound book.
Yep.
They take
put the wrong date. Yeah.
Yeah. They will take a sampling of your 4473s and reverse audit you.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we had a few missing dates posted with release dates after delay to show that it was released. One thing that we had a few missing dates posted with release date after the delay showing that it was released. Well, if you mean corrections, that's fine. But if your release date shows, if your 4473 transfer date is February as May 15th, and you screw up and you mark it as May 17th, that's going to be a violation. unless you go in and edit that release date in the bound book, the disposition date to be the 15th, which you're allowed to do. Yeah. On an expired 4473, do you still have to sign for box 34 and 35 on expired NICs? No.
You don't,
That's-
but we recommend it.
Yeah, like JC said, why not print it and sign your name at 34, 35 for all of them? Okay, again, you're not going to get in trouble for signing and printing. Just be careful of box 36 if it's not transferred.
Right.
But again, you are not required to sign it if it's not a denial and not, what's the other one? A cancel. Right. All right. Where does a witness sign on an electronic 4473 if they have helped the other person filling out the form?
That depends on your provider, whoever your provider is. First of all, it has to be 2 witnesses and they can't be affiliated with the store in any way. That means no employees can participate in it. So, and they need to sign and date. We also recommend you obtain a copy of their driver's license or ID. Check with your provider of your E4473. What we tell FFLs is if your provider doesn't have a process for that, print it off and have them sign manually, pen and ink. And print their name and date it. That's your best solution. So many providers out there of E4473 solutions, and we don't support all of them. So you would have to check with your provider.
Yep, I asked this question in 3 separate ATF sessions last week, and I got 2 different answers. One ATF group said, have them sign it on box 22 rather, where the customer signs, and the other two ATF groups said, "Oh, just make sure the names are in box 32, and just indicate who's the helper and who's the witness, or both witness." So either one.
My instructions are have them both sign it, print their names, and date it as well, and just tell the actual person that's taking possession of the firearm to ensure they leave enough room for the other 2 people to sign, date, and print their names.
Yeah,
if you're gonna have to do it small, but
And if you're using electronic software, again, E4473, you can print the form and then have them wet sign. The other 2 people wet sign with a pen in wherever they can sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. One ATF agent said anywhere on the form, and that was just a stupid answer. I said, how about if we at least tell them box 22 or 32? So,
yeah, let's give them something.
Yeah, because there is no stipulation.
Yeah.
With just a few more for time's sake here, JC's got to catch up flight. With the New Mexico wait period, does a 7-day wait start the day we initiate NICS, or 7 days from the proceed date if they received a delay?
The initiation of the next background check. You have
So
7 days, right? You have that initial 7 calendar days, and then if you don't receive a response within that 7, it's held for 20 days.
But that day, doesn't day 1, John, start tomorrow? Like if I submit the background?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's based on, day 1 is the next day. Yes.
Okay.
So the same as the NICS delay. The NICS delay for the Brady date, it starts the day after. Day 1 is the day after you initiated the NICS.
On a denied 4473, do we fill out 34 to 36?
You don't fill out, no, you don't fill out 36, just 34 and 35.
Right.
On a denied.
Right. Yeah, you sign but do not date. Yeah. ATF called for Trace on Friday at 5:30 p.m. She said it wasn't high priority and told me to hold off until Monday to respond. I didn't wait and sent it in right away. What's the actual?
You have 24 hours to respond, but that's interesting, 5:30 p.m. That's kind of a weird situation. You did the right thing. We always tell you, this is another one we tell you, either in your ATF training and communications log or keep a separate trace request log. Make sure you document who you spoke to and what they said.
Yeah.
We tell you to keep a log of all your trace requests so you can start to see if there's any patterns that you need to be concerned with. So.
Yeah, I had a caller last week. It was 10:30 at night, wherever they were and I was. And they said, I just got a trace request. Do I have to go back to the store and do this tonight? I said, no. Just keep your documentation. It's the time received. You weren't open. You can do it first thing in the morning. You have 24 hours. So, all of these are a little squishy when it comes to the timing, and because these people work around the clock doing what they do. It's not a night.
Yeah, they're contractors.
Yeah. So within reason, just keep your notes as JC, keep your ATF logbook, keep your notes by issue and event, and be able to explain it if and when it happens, right? Yeah, somebody said ATF said to attach IDs to the forms. That's bullshit. That's local rule, or what's the secret code of IOI enforcement, Jason?
The code of IOI regulations. You always screw that up. The code of IOI regulations, they're all made up. Nobody knows where they came from. Nobody knows what the hell they're talking about when they spit it out. There's the code of federal regulations. That's what we follow. Code of IOI regulations. That's an IOI making stuff up as they go along. You know the old rule, right? You take 10 IOIs, put them in 10 different rooms and ask them all the same question. You'll get 10 different answers.
Right. I'm trying to get through all these T's and F's. My electronic 4473 has caught many errors that I may have missed. Very good comment.
Yeah.
Where can I find which ones you endorse? If you're interested in the E4473s, give JB at FFL Consultants an email. I'll send you the list of folks. We don't endorse anybody, but we like working with certain programs that we know function correctly.
Yep.
And we'll send you that list and all the questions to ask to sign up. Bob says, I'm old school. I do not trust computer storage for any amount of money. Too many hackers out there. Too much can happen like that.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. JC, I think for the sake of time, let me just jump to the end here.
Sure.
All right. If it is commingled with your business, you might have to approve. I get that. Oh, can the
Don't
ATF
commingle your personal firearms with your firearms inventory. If you do, make sure your personal firearms are tagged as such. What we tell FFLs to do is just get a safe and put all your personal firearms in the safe away from everything else, and mark the safe as personal firearms, not store inventory.
Yep. Greg asks, if you have cloud storage for catastrophic and paper, do you need to tell the ATF about the electronic copies, or can you just keep them secret?
No, and we actually we had an IOI that actually challenged an FFL for keeping it both on paper and electronically. And the electronic backup of the form was totally acceptable. ATF headquarters agreed with us that he could keep it both electronically and paper-wise.
Yep. Yeah, and one's your business records. You declare your electronic storage as business records, and you declare your paper 4473s as inspection records. They're available for inspection. Greg, back to anybody with a point of contact state, and with this new, as I heard last week from FBI, the ATF is nowhere near approving the two things: the background checks for FFL employees or access to the used gun log. Even though this was spouted as being available last January, neither organization is agreeable on how this is going to roll out, when it's going to roll out, with what procedures and liabilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So don't hold your breath on any of that.
The form has been approved. The process has been approved. ATF is just, it's in ATF's hands now. They got to figure out when they're going to roll it out.
Yeah.
That's it. There will be a form that will need to be completed. It's going to look very similar to the 4473. It's obviously not going to include all of the information, and you're going to be responsible for maintaining some records as it relates to the background checks. You're not just going to be able to willy-nilly run background checks. So just keep that in mind. But it's close. We're anticipating June, July. So
it's going to be a separate form, and FBI says point of contact states should have the form accessible to them, but let's just see what happens for the background checks anyway, because point of contact states, whether you guys know it or not, you submit your check to the state agency, and when they clear it, they submit it down to NICS for the federal clearance, and then it comes back up to state, and then it gets sent back to you. So as I understood it last week, your employees should still be able to check that federal records database for employee issues. But I think the states still have to confer on which states are going to support it.
Yeah, on the point of contact state deal, what's going to happen with that is NICS or the ATF is going to go to the point of contact state and say, hey, listen, we're rolling this out as part of federal law. You can either A, take this on yourselves and do it, or B, you can have us manage it for you. And it'll be up to the point of contact state whether or not they want to opt in or not. So
good question here, JC. Can a gunsmith buy a broken gun, place it in bound book, repair it, then sell it?
If you're an FFL, have at it.
Yeah.
If you're replacing part for part, yeah, sure. Why wouldn't you be able to?
Yeah. Do you have to keep FFLs for incoming guns from distributors FFL copies on incoming guns from distributors?
Yeah,
And
you're
do you
only
have to-
required to obtain a copy and verify it via FFL Easy Check. Now, as a best practice, keeping a copy on file, sure, as a best practice. But
well,
once
they're
you
asking,
obtain it and verify it, you're not required to keep it
no, JC, they're asking about incoming. The answer is no to that, correct?
for incoming.
Incoming. If somebody's shipping me a gun, they ship it with the copy of the FFL. They already verified I'm okay.
Yeah.
But
No.
I don't have to keep incoming FFL.
No, you don't have to keep it.
Right. And nor, just to clarify for all of you, nor does the other FFL have to ship a copy of their FFL with the firearms.
No.
Then,
You just need to, yeah.
And anyone in the country can ship a gun to you with, any person in the country can ship a gun to a gun dealer. That's not illegal either. Just heads up on that.
We do recommend that you obtain a copy of their GL. So that way, especially if they're shipping it to you for repair or whatever, so you can accurately put it into your A&D records.
Yeah. But twice a week, I get a panic call of a gun showing up at the store with no information in it.
Happens all the time.
Happens all the time. It's called a gun in a box. It's okay. Just call us, figure out how to acquire it, and we'll fix it later. But just get it in your book as an unknown, unidentified recipient on that firearm.
Yeah.
Okay. Are nonprofits doing raffles a few times a year now considered in business of selling firearms?
That's going to be a big question mark, and we're waiting on some more information on that. Probably not, because they're raffling the firearm, and it's going to be kind of gray. It's not what they're looking at all. So, and they're going through an FFL for the transfer, so I wouldn't be concerned about that.
Yeah. Now, if they're taking possession of that firearm and raffling it off for profit for the organization, that could be a problem.
Yeah. But I don't think that's the intent of this at all.
But we don't know.
We'll see what happens. We're definitely going to be seeking some clarification from the ATF once the dust settles on this. And look, this is going to be a very lengthy process to get this thing in place, and with all the lawsuits and stuff going on. So stay tuned.
Roland asks on the 44783 address box 10, if the ID shows 1254 X Street, is it acceptable for the customer to write 11524 XST in box 10? So abbreviations as approved by the U.S. Postal Service are permissible.
Yeah. If it's a recognized abbreviation, it's fine.
Do I keep approved Form 4 with the 4473?
No, not required.
Right.
Once the firearm is transferred to Form 4, if you want to keep it, if you want to keep it for customer service, keep it separate, because God knows customers lose their Form 4s all the time. But now, if you're doing it electronically, they're going to have a copy of it in their email anyway. So,
do you keep IDs for guns bought from someone on consignments?
Or you can keep it in your buddy file.
Or used guns.
You can keep it in your buddy file, but you're not required to.
Yeah, the best practice is to figure out who you're buying a gun from. And we have a form that's available to you if you contact us, or it's in our VIP folder. Used gun purchase waiver says I'm the owner of this gun, and I realize selling it to you if it's stolen is illegal, and I'm admitting to guilt, basically. Yeah, so you should know who you're buying guns from. Keep track, because when that gun turns up stolen for some reason, the police are going to ask you where you got it. Any word on Illinois case at Supreme Court? No, we did not research that yesterday or this weekend. Still in flux, no progress. Believe me, when there's decisions either way, the news is blasted all over, and there's nothing new on that, but many different lawsuits working on it. And the Supreme Court, just FYI, Supreme Court is also dragging their feet. We thought they'd have more activity on Second Amendment issues that are in the courts right now, and nothing's been heard. So they haven't made an announcement. Okay. In box 11, place of birth, the customer writes the city and state where they were born. Is it okay for the customer to use a state abbreviation here?
Yeah. State abbreviation is an acceptable abbreviation.
Yeah, on place of birth. And for territory, U.S. territories, they must have the city. Make sure they're putting the city in there.
Yes. It can't just be Puerto Rico. It's got to be a city and the territory.
Jim says he's FFL in Oregon. I used to be able to do interstate transfers for buyers in Washington. Now I am leery of doing this with the change in Washington law. Oregon police require, yes. So Washington state residents can only buy guns in Washington state now, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. What should we do with transferred firearms that have been abandoned, left, or more than a year? We call them orphans, right?
Yeah. You know, look, it really depends on your policies and whether or not they're public facing or not, etc. You know, if you have a storage fee you charge, we always tell you to do this: attempt 2 phone calls and then send a certified letter if they don't come pick it up, and then you can turn it over to law enforcement and let them deal with it. Obviously, if you have a public facing policy that charges for storage of personal property that's left, you can sell the firearm to recoup the storage fees. There's a number of different ways you can go about it. So,
but the one thing you can't do is turn around and sell it. You
no,
can't.
You really can't.
Yeah, you're not allowed to acquire it. It's lost and found property is what it is, and most states have rules of
personal,
firearms.
yeah, exactly. Abandoned property rules.
Yeah.
So you got to check that. If you have a policy, a public facing policy, depending on your abandoned property rules in your state, again, you might be able to recoup the storage fees for that, but you got to be careful because of abandoned property laws in your state.
Yeah. Mike says, while it's good practice, are we required to use FFL Easy Check before we send a gun to another FFL?
It's a best practice, and yes, you should be verifying the FFL against FFL Easy Check to ensure that the address that's on the FFL is accurate and complete.
Yeah, as far as required, the answer is no, but it's a great best practice. And
it's very important because what we're finding is individuals, and we're now telling FFLs not to put the their FFL in a very easily accessible spot in the public purview of their store. We're telling them that, like, hang it on a wall that's away from everybody, that they can't take a picture of it, because what we're getting is individuals who are taking pictures or scanning their FFL and then manipulating it to have guns sent directly to them.
Yeah, photoshopping.
Yeah.
All right, JC, this is for you. Someone was born in an Air Force base, but was not sure what state would be listed on 4473 for state of birth, was told other FFL just used Air Force base as location of birth.
Well, it's pretty easy to tell where an Air Force base is as far as what state, but yeah, it would be the Air Force base in the state. We see it a lot.
Yeah,
you should, and it would be required. The Air Force base is considered a city, and you would put the state down. They need to look it up. How do you not know where you were born? That's weird.
Yeah. Connie says, we bought a firearm that was broken, repaired it, and was told we cannot sell because that was considered manufacturing a firearm.
How was it considered manufacturing a firearm?
Yeah, this is the one, and I think they were thinking, like, so you're the expert on this, but I think they were thinking put it on this side, and that way from that side still look clean. Yeah. But the big deal is, like, we'll say this will be the first time we've camped back here, but we're gonna meet them in Florida next week. They're leaving this week, and we're gonna go next week every Memorial weekend.
Oh, I thought he was asking a question.
Yeah, I made it.
We bought a firearm that was broken, repaired. If you're replacing part for part, I would have to have a little bit more information on what you were doing to the firearm, but for the most part, and we have a 2-part series out there that you can read, Gunsmithing versus Manufacturing. I would have to understand a little bit better what you were doing to the firearm to determine whether or not it was gunsmithing or manufacturing. But generally speaking, part for part would not be considered manufacturing.
Yeah, if you're replacing the upper receiver because it's broken and jammed or rusted, I mean, that's not manufacturing. That's subject.
In the country alone, I guess, put it that way. And I think they're figuring a lot of stuff out.
I'm
a little different.
Adam keeps popping in. All right, so Connie, you can call JC if you have further questions on that and review that with him. So listen, guys, it's 1 o'clock here. We got to catch airplanes, but you guys are great. We'll see you in the middle of June. If you still have questions for us, email us or text us, call us. You guys are great, and we'll hopefully have that 4473 training out to the end of this week.
Yep.
So thanks all. JC, any closing comments? You good?
Nope, I'm good. I'm just gonna save this chat real quick, just to make sure we have everything. Good. Perfect. Got it.
All right,
saved.
everybody.
There you
Good
go.
luck this month, and keep your ears to the internet on this, engaged in the business of conducting firearms transfers without a license. It's going to be interesting. Let's see what the next 30 days brings.
Yep.
All right, all.
All right. Thanks, guys.
I will
Girls,
see you.
everyone.